Welcome to my channel. I'm your friend, and here we don't just listen to stories. We feel them. If you love mystery, thrillers, and emotional journeys, then you're in the right place. So let's begin today's story. The call that shouldn't exist. The first call came at 2:17 a.m. It always did. In the quiet town of Ashford Falls, Ohio, nights were usually still. Too still. The kind of silence where even a passing car felt like an interruption. The town had one main street, a handful of diners that closed early, and neighborhoods where porch lights stayed on longer than they needed to. Inside the Ashford Falls Emergency Dispatch Center, the room was dim, lit mostly by monitors and blinking indicators. It was the night shift, slow, routine, predictable. Until the phone rang. Dispatcher Emily Carter glanced at the screen. Incoming 911. She straightened in her chair, muscle memory taking over. 911, what's your emergency? She said calmly. There was breathing on the other end. Slow, uneven, like someone trying not to panic. Then a voice. Low, shaking. He's in my house. Emily's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Okay, she said steady. Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. What's your address? A pause. The breathing grew heavier. Please hurry, the voice whispered. He's right outside the door. Emily felt a faint chill crawl up her arms. Ma'am, she repeated, firmer now. What is your address? Another pause. Then the caller said it. 142 Ridgewood Lane. Emily typed it in. The system froze for half a second. Then an alert flashed red. Address not found. Emily frowned. That address isn't coming up, she said. Can you repeat it? 142 Ridgewood Lane, the voice insisted. The old house. Please, he's knocking now. A sound echoed through the call. A dull, hollow knock. Once. Twice. Emily swallowed. Ma'am, how long has someone been there with you? The answer came almost like a sob. He's always been here. The line went dead. Emily stared at the screen. Disconnected. She leaned back, exhaling slowly. Dropped calls happened. Wrong addresses happened. Panic made people say strange things. Still, something felt off. She pulled up the town records out of habit. Ridgewood Lane. Her fingers stopped. The street existed, but 142 Ridgewood Lane? The house had burned down 20 years ago. No rebuilding. No residents. No structure. Just an empty lot at the edge of town. Emily shook her head, forcing logic back into place. Probably a prank. Or a misdial. Or someone confused. She logged the call, marked it as unresolved, and moved on. But when her shift ended at sunrise, the image stayed with her. The breathing, the knock, and the way the caller had said it, he's always been here. The second call came the next night. Same time, 2:17 a.m. Emily was back at the console, coffee untouched beside her. She told herself she wasn't waiting for it. But when the phone rang, her heart still jumped. Incoming 911. She answered instantly. 911, what's your emergency? Breathing. The same breathing. And the same voice. He's back, the caller whispered. Emily's pulse quickened. Ma'am, she said carefully, is this about Ridgewood Lane? Silence. Then very softly, you remember? Emily sat up straight. Who is this? She asked. Are you in danger right now? Yes, the voice said. He's closer tonight. A creak sounded in the background, like a floorboard underweight. Emily typed rapidly, opening call trace tools. Listen to me, she said. I need you to tell me where you are. The voice trembled. I never left. Emily's eyes flicked to the address history again. 142 Ridgewood Lane burned down in 2003, she said slowly. There is no house there. The breathing stopped. For a moment there was nothing but static. Then the caller spoke again. You can still hear it burn. If you listen. A sharp sound cut through the line. Not a scream. A crackle. Like fire. The call disconnected. Emily tore off her headset. Her hands were shaking now. She flagged the call, sent a message to her supervisor, and pulled up old incident reports tied to Ridgewood Lane. One case stood out. Fire incident, 2003. Fatalities 3. Cause undetermined. A family. Parents. 1 child. The child's name caught her eye. Lucas Hayes, age 9. Emily leaned back slowly. A chill settled deep in her chest. The caller's voice hadn't sounded like a prank. It had sounded young. Too young. By the third night, the town was listening, even if it didn't know it yet. At 2:17 a.m., the phone rang again. Emily answered, already standing. 911, stay on the line, she said. Help is on the way. She didn't know why she said it. Maybe instinct. Maybe fear. The breathing returned. But this time, there was something else. Another sound. A faint voice in the background. Not the caller. Deeper. Closer. Emily's stomach tightened. Who is with you? She demanded. The caller whispered back, "He doesn't like when I talk." A pause. Then the words that would follow Emily long after the call ended. "You should stop answering." The line went silent. Emily stood frozen, staring at the blinking screen. Outside the dispatch center, Ashford Falls slept peacefully. But somewhere between the past and the present, between fire and ash, between a burned-down house and a ringing phone, something was trying to be heard, and it wasn't done calling. The dispatcher's screen glowed softly in the dim control room. 2:17 a.m., another quiet night in Ashwood, Pennsylvania, the kind of town where nothing ever really happened anymore. No bars open late, no traffic, no noise, just empty streets and old houses holding old memories. Sarah Mitchell adjusted her headset, stretching slightly. She'd been working the night shift at the 911 call center for 6 years now, long enough to recognize patterns, long enough to know when a call was real panic and when it was just loneliness. That's when the line blinked. Incoming call, unknown location. She frowned. Usually every call came with an address. Even cell phones bounced off towers. But this one? Blank. She clicked it open. 911, what's your emergency? Static. Then breathing. Slow, uneven, like someone trying very hard not to cry. Sarah straightened in her chair. Sir, ma'am? Can you hear me? A man's voice finally came through, low, strained. He's inside my house. Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Okay, I need you to stay calm. What's your address? A pause. Then the man said something that made her stomach tighten. I don't think I have one anymore. Sir, she said gently, I need a location so I can send help. The breathing grew faster. This house burned down. 20 years ago. Sarah froze. Her eyes darted to the system. She typed fast, pulling up archived property records. And there it was. 1426 Hollow Creek Road. Status destroyed, fire 2003. Casualties 3. Her throat went dry. Sir, are you saying you're calling from 1426 Hollow Creek Road? Yes, the voice whispered. That's where I died. The line went dead. Sarah ripped off her headset. What the hell? Her supervisor, Mark Reynolds, looked up from across the room. You okay? She hesitated, then shook her head. No, I just got a call from a house that doesn't exist. Mark raised an eyebrow. You sure it wasn't a prank? I pulled the records, she said. The house burned down. Family died inside. Mark sighed, already tired. Sarah, it's late. People do sick things for attention. But something about that voice, it hadn't sounded playful or drunk. It sounded terrified. The next night, the call came again. 2:17 a.m., same blank location. Same static. Sarah answered immediately. 911, this is Sarah. The breathing was louder this time. He's closer now. Her pulse spiked. Who is he? A man. I can hear him walking, even though there's no floor. Sarah swallowed hard. Listen to me. Are you alone? No. A faint sound echoed through the line. Footsteps. Slow, heavy. Sarah felt the hairs on her arms rise. Sir, I need you to tell me what you see around you. Smoke, he whispered. Even after all these years, it still smells like smoke. Behind him, something creaked. Wood snapping. Fire crackling. That's not possible, Sarah muttered under her breath. Then the man said quietly, He's the reason we never got out. The call cut. Again. This time, Sarah didn't wait. She pulled the old case file herself. The Hollow Creek Fire, 2003. A husband, a wife, a 7-year-old boy. Cause of fire, electrical malfunction. Case closed. But as she scrolled, her eyes caught something strange. A handwritten note in the margin of the original report. Witness reports a man seen leaving the property shortly before the fire. Witness reports? Why wasn't that investigated further? The third night, Sarah wasn't alone. Mark stood beside her, coffee in hand, skeptical but curious. 2:17 a.m. The line lit up. Sarah answered. 911, we're here. Help is available. The voice sounded weaker now. Please, he won't let me wake up. Mark leaned closer, his expression changing. Sir, Sarah said, what is your name? A pause. Then, Daniel. Something thudded in the background, like a door slamming. Mark mouthed, recording this. He says, Daniel continued, voice trembling, that fires erase everything, evidence, screams, truth. A deep, unfamiliar voice suddenly whispered through the line. You shouldn't have answered. The call disconnected violently. The room went silent. Mark stared at Sarah. That wasn't a prank. No, she said softly. And whatever this is, it knows we're listening now. Outside the call center, the wind howled. And somewhere in Ashwood, at a place that no longer existed, a phone was still ringing. Sarah didn't sleep that morning. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard it again. You shouldn't have answered. By evening, Ashwood felt different. The town always went quiet after sunset, but tonight the silence felt heavier, like something was pressing down on it. At the 911 center, Sarah sat early at her station. She hadn't told anyone else yet. Not about the second voice. Not about the threat. Only Mark knew, and even he looked unsettled. You sure you want to keep taking these calls? He asked quietly. Sarah nodded. If it's really someone trapped, or something trying to talk, ignoring it won't make it stop. Mark didn't argue. He just adjusted the recorder settings. If it happens again, he said, we document everything. 2:16 a.m., 1 minute before the usual time. Sarah's heart was already racing. 2:17 a.m., the screen blinked. Incoming call, unknown location. Her fingers trembled as she answered. 901, this is Sarah. Silence. Then Daniel's voice came through, faint, like it was traveling through layers of something thick. He's angry. Sarah leaned forward. Daniel, listen to me. Who is he? A man who never lived here, but never left. A low sound echoed in the background. Not footsteps this time. Breathing. Too close. Sarah spoke slowly, carefully. Daniel, how old are you? A pause. I'm still 7. Her chest tightened. The fire hadn't just killed them. It had frozen them. Daniel, she said softly, do you remember the night of the fire? The breathing stuttered. Yes, Mommy told me to hide. Daddy was yelling, and then the man came back inside. What man? Sarah pressed. The one who smelled like gas. Behind Daniel's voice, a sudden thump echoed, like something hitting a wall. He's here, Daniel whispered. He doesn't like when I talk. A deeper voice cut in, cold and sharp. You should have let the dead stay quiet. Sarah felt Mark grip the edge of her desk. You're being recorded, Sarah said, forcing strength into her voice. Who are you? The line crackled violently. I'm the reason this town sleeps at night, the voice replied. Because I burned the truth with them. The call dropped. That was enough. At dawn, Sarah drove straight to the Ashwood Records office. Dusty shelves. Old files. Forgotten truths. She requested everything related to the Hollow Creek fire. The clerk frowned. That case is sealed. By who? Sarah asked. The clerk hesitated. The county fire inspector at the time. Thomas Keller. The name hit her like ice. Thomas Keller. She remembered it now. Retired, respected, still living in Ashwood. Still alive. That evening, Sarah stood across the street from Keller's house. A neat lawn. Warm lights. A normal life. Too normal. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You're getting close. Her breath caught. Another message followed. Tonight, he won't let me hide. Then the final text. If you want the truth, listen carefully at 2:17. Sarah looked up at Keller's house. The porch light flickered, and for just a second, she thought she saw a child's shadow in the window. Waiting. Listening. Just like the town. 2:16 a.m., Sarah sat frozen at her station, eyes locked on the clock. Her heartbeat matched every second. Mark stood a few feet away, pretending to check logs, but both of them were waiting for the same thing. 2:17. The screen lit up. Incoming call, unknown location. Sarah answered instantly. 911, I'm here. Daniel's voice came through, thinner now, like it was being pulled apart. He found me. Sarah swallowed. Daniel, listen to me. Where are you right now? I'm in the hallway, he whispered. The fire keeps starting again. A faint crackling sound filled the line. Not loud, controlled, like someone keeping a flame alive. Sarah spoke slowly. Daniel, can you see him? Yes. Her stomach tightened. What does he look like? Silence. Then Daniel said something that made Mark stiffen. He looks like the man in the pictures. The one with the badge. Sarah felt cold all over. The badge? She repeated. Yes. He tells me it means people trust him. Behind Daniel, a low voice murmured, almost amused. They always did. Sarah leaned forward. Thomas Keller, is that you? The line went dead. No static. Just gone. Sarah didn't hesitate this time. She grabbed her keys and left the call center before dawn. Thomas Keller's house looked even more ordinary up close. White siding, American flag on the porch, a man who had lived comfortably for 20 years. She rang the doorbell. Keller opened the door slowly. Late 60s, calm eyes. Yes, he said. I'm with emergency services, Sarah replied. I need to ask you about the Hollow Creek fire. Something flickered across his face. Not fear. Annoyance. That case is closed, he said evenly. Not for the people who died in it, Sarah replied. For a moment, Keller studied her. Then he smiled. Come in. Inside, the house smelled faintly of smoke. Not fresh, old, like it had soaked into the walls. You were the inspector, Sarah said. Witnesses saw a man leaving the house before the fire. That lead went nowhere. Keller poured coffee calmly. Witnesses lie. Children don't, Sarah said. His hand paused mid-pour. You hear children now? He asked softly. Sarah met his eyes. I hear a boy who's been screaming for help every night at 2:17. Keller set the cup down. The dead talk when the living don't listen, he said. I cleaned up a mistake. You started the fire, Sarah said. To erase something. He leaned closer. To erase me. Sarah's blood ran cold. You were inside that house, she whispered. Yes, Keller replied. And I walked out. That night, Sarah didn't go home. She returned to the call center. 2:17 a.m. The call came. Daniel was crying now. He says you shouldn't have come. Daniel sobbed. He says fire fixes everything. A new sound joined the call. A lighter clicking open. Click, click. Sarah shouted, Daniel, listen to me. You're not alone anymore. A deep voice answered instead. You opened the door, Keller said calmly. Now stay on the line. Flames roared through the call. Then a scream, not Daniel's. An adult's. The line cut. Alarms blared across the station. A fire alert flashed on the screen. 1426 Hollow Creek Road. Sarah stood up slowly. The house had been gone for 20 years. But tonight, something was burning again. Sarah's hand shook as she grabbed the emergency radio. Mark, get the fire department now. The alarms kept blaring. Outside, the first hints of dawn touched Ashwood. But the streets felt colder than midnight. The town itself seemed to hold its breath. Mark was already dialing. 1426 Hollow Creek. Nothing on file. Sarah, this address? Doesn't matter, she snapped. The call came from there. Someone is alive inside, or something is alive. She ran to her car. The engine roared to life, tires crunching over the frost-covered pavement. As she drove, memories of the original Hollow Creek fire hit her like a wave. Flames consuming the house. Children screaming. The smell of burnt wood and scorched air. And that boy, Daniel. She couldn't let him down. The street was empty. 1426. Hollow Creek loomed in front of her, but the house, it wasn't there, not physically. Only smoke hovered over the field, rising in unnatural columns, curling into shapes that looked like small figures. Sarah grabbed her flashlight and ran toward the smoke. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if gravity itself was bending toward that spot. A voice called from inside the haze. Sarah, you shouldn't be here. It was calm, almost polite. She gritted her teeth. I'm not leaving without him. Another shape moved in the smoke, taller, shadowy. The form seemed human, but the eyes, glowing red, flickering like embers. Daniel's voice pierced through the chaos. Sarah, he's going to hurt me. The shadow lunged. Not running, floating. Sarah swung her flashlight. Its beam hit the figure. It was Keller, not as an old man, but younger. His face twisted, features burned as if from the fire itself. You shouldn't have returned, Keller whispered, voice echoing like a distorted radio. I did what was necessary. I burned the lies. I burned the truth. A sudden heat washed over Sarah. Smoke swirled around her, forming the shape of the house from 20 years ago. Flames licked the air, forming walls, windows, doors, everything real but impossible at the same time. Daniel, she screamed, scanning the phantom house. The boy appeared in a corner, thin, ghost-like, eyes wide in terror. Run to me, Sarah yelled. Keller moved faster than any human should. Every step cracked the ground beneath him. The air was thick with ash and flame. Sarah grabbed Daniel's hand. His skin was cold, unnaturally cold. I've got you, she said, dragging him toward the field. Behind them, Keller raised his hand. A wave of heat and smoke pushed them down. Sarah's flashlight fell, spinning across the ash, lighting Keller's burning eyes. Stay on the line, Sarah whispered into her radio. I'm taking him out. She ran. The smoke clawed at her. Whispers of children screaming and adults yelling filling the night. Every step was agony. The field seemed endless, stretching as if the fire was alive, trying to trap them inside the memory forever. Then faint lights appeared in the distance. The fire trucks, engines roaring. Sarah screamed again, waving her arms. Here, over here. The trucks slowed, sirens blaring. Keller's figure halted at the edge of the smoke, looking at her one last time. His lips curled into a smile, terrifying, satisfied, before he vanished into the haze. Sarah collapsed to the ground, holding Daniel tight. Mark ran up, eyes wide. He's gone? I think so, Sarah whispered, voice trembling. But we still need to check the site. Daniel clung to her arm. He burned the house again, the boy stammered, and it's coming for us. Sarah hugged him tighter. Not anymore, Daniel. Not anymore. Above them, the smoke lifted slightly. The first sunbeams hit the field. But Sarah knew the Hollow Creek fire was not over. Some truths burned forever, and some calls never truly end. Morning didn't bring relief to Ashwood. It only made everything feel wrong. The field at Hollow Creek looked normal again, just damp grass, muddy tire tracks from the fire trucks, and yellow tape fluttering weakly in the breeze. No smoke, no flames, no sign that anything impossible had happened hours earlier. Except for Daniel. He sat wrapped in a thermal blanket in the back of the ambulance, knees pulled to his chest, staring at nothing. EMTs tried to speak to him, but he didn't respond. Not a word. Not a blink. Sarah stood nearby, arms crossed tightly, her uniform smelling faintly of smoke that shouldn't exist. Mark joined her, voice low. Fire department says there was no active fire. No heat signature, nothing. Sarah nodded. I know, but they found this, he said, handing her a small evidence bag. Inside was a melted plastic lighter. Sarah's stomach dropped. Brand? She asked. Mark exhaled. Same one Thomas Keller carried. Retired inspectors used to get them as gifts. So it wasn't just a hallucination. Something had crossed over. At the hospital, Daniel was admitted under a temporary unidentified minor status. No records. No fingerprints on file. No birth certificate. A boy who legally never existed. Sarah sat beside his bed as doctors stepped out. You're safe now, she said gently. Daniel didn't look at her. He's not gone, he whispered. Sarah felt a chill crawl up her spine. Keller? Daniel shook his head slowly. The fire. She frowned. What do you mean? Daniel finally turned toward her. His eyes were too old for a child. He didn't start it, Daniel said. He learned how to use it. Sarah leaned closer. Use it how? Daniel swallowed. Fire makes people forget. That's why they use it. Sarah's phone buzzed. An internal alert from the 911 system. She opened it. Missed call, 2:17 a.m., unknown location. Her heart slammed into her ribs. It was already morning. That wasn't possible. Back at the call center, technicians crowded around Sarah's station. Screens showed waveform data, call logs, timestamps. This call came in at exactly 2:17, one tech said, confused. But the system clock says 9:42 a.m. Sarah whispered, play it. Static filled the room. Then breathing. Not Daniel's. Adult. Controlled. This isn't over, the voice said calmly. You pulled the boy out. Not the fire. Sarah stepped back. Who is this? A pause. Then, someone who learned what Keller knew. The line ended. No threat. No scream. Just certainty. That afternoon, Detective Aaron Blake arrived from the State Bureau, mid-40s, sharp eyes. Didn't waste words. I've reviewed the Hollow Creek file, he said, standing beside Sarah in a small office. And Keller's retirement records. Sarah crossed her arms. Then you know it was never an accident. Blake nodded. Keller wasn't alone. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were photos, old, grainy. Men standing near fire scenes. Always on the edge of the frame. Always watching. Fire inspectors. City officials. Contractors. A pattern. They covered for each other, Blake continued. Illegal land deals. Insurance fraud. When witnesses got in the way, fires happened. Sarah's voice was tight. And the families? Blake didn't answer immediately. They were collateral, he said quietly. Sarah thought of Daniel, 7 years old, trapped in a loop of flame and fear. And now? She asked. Blake met her eyes. Now something's bleeding through. That night, Sarah stayed at the hospital. Daniel finally slept, but his heart rate spiked every time the hallway lights flickered. At 2:16 a.m., Sarah's phone vibrated. She didn't have to look. She knew. Incoming call unknown. She answered. 911, she said softly. This is Sarah. The voice that came through was not Keller's. It was a woman's. We tried to scream too, the voice whispered, but fire eats sound. Sarah closed her eyes. Who are you? Another house, the woman replied. Different year. Same men. Images flashed through Sarah's mind. Archived cases. Forgotten fires, sealed reports. How many? Sarah asked. A pause. More than you think. In the background, something crackled. Not flames. Paper burning. Listen carefully, the woman said. If you want this to stop, you have to expose the pattern. Not the man. The call disconnected. The next day, Sarah and Blake spread files across a conference table. Fires spanning 3 decades. Always ruled accidental. Always connected to redevelopment zones. Always followed by silence. This isn't haunting, Blake said. It's pressure. Sarah looked up. From where? Blake tapped the table. from What Happens When You Bury Truth Too Deep. That evening, news broke quietly. Thomas Keller found dead in his home. Cause smoke inhalation. No fire damage reported. Sarah stared at the headline. No fire? She murmured. Daniel, watching the TV from his bed, whispered, he couldn't escape it. At 2:17 a.m. that night, the call came again. But this time, the screen showed something new. Location identified. Sarah's breath caught. Not Hollow Creek. A different address. Another old case. Another fire. She answered. The voice on the line spoke calmly. We're still here, it said. And now, you know where to look. Sarah grabbed her coat. This wasn't just one story anymore. It was a map. And she had just found the next point. The address glowed on Sarah's screen like a warning. 618 Merrill Lane. She didn't need to look it up. She already remembered it. A 2-story home on the edge of Ashwood. Burned 12 years ago. Declared an accident caused by a faulty space heater. A single casualty. A woman. Her name had been Emily Harper. Sarah grabbed her coat and keys before anyone could stop her. Detective Blake followed without a word. Marrow Lane was quieter than Hollow Creek ever was. No tape, no police lights. Just a stretch of road lined with rebuilt homes that all looked the same. Fresh paint hiding old scars. The lot at 618 was empty, but the air felt occupied. Sarah stepped out of the car, her breath fogging instantly. Do you feel that? She asked. Blake nodded, like standing in someone else's memory. Her phone buzzed. Incoming call unknown. 2:17 a.m. She answered. 901. Emily's voice came through clear and steady, too steady. He told me it was safe to sleep, she said. Said the heater would shut off on its own. Sarah closed her eyes. Who told you that, Emily? A man with papers, Emily replied. Said he was here to help. Said fires happen, but only to unlucky people. Blake whispered. Same pattern. Emily continued. When the smoke came, I couldn't open the door. It was locked from the outside. Sarah's hand tightened around the phone. Do you know who locked it? She asked. A pause. Yes. A new sound entered the call. A match striking. Blake swore under his breath. Emily spoke one last time. He's watching you now. The line went dead. They searched the lot. Nothing. Until Blake noticed something near the curb, half buried in dirt and leaves. A metal tag. Sarah brushed it clean. Ashwood Fire Dep Inspector Access. Serial number scratched out? Blake exhaled slowly. This wasn't just Keller. No, Sarah said. It was a system. Back at the station, Sarah dug deeper than she ever had before. Not just fires. Inspections. Approvals. Sign-offs. Names repeated across decades. Some retired, some promoted, some dead. One name stood out. Deputy Fire Marshal Richard Hale. Still active. Still respected. Still signing reports. Sarah stared at his file. He's next, she whispered. Blake looked up. Or he's the last. That night, Sarah stayed at the call center alone. She didn't trust anyone else to answer. 2:16 a.m. Her hands were steady now. 2:17. The call came. This time there was no static. No fear. Only calm. You're getting closer, the voice said. A man's voice. Not Keller, not Hale. Who are you? Sarah asked. A soft chuckle. Someone who understands balance. People died, she snapped. Yes, the voice replied. So others could live comfortably. That's how towns grow. Sarah's blood boiled. You killed them. We corrected problems, the voice said. And fire cleans what law cannot. Behind the voice, Sarah heard something new. More breathing. Not one person. Many. Children, women, men. All waiting. You hear them now, the voice said. Good. That means you're ready. The screen changed. Another address appeared. But this one made Sarah's heart stop. It wasn't an old fire site. It was her own street. Her house. The voice whispered almost kindly. Every story ends at home. The call disconnected. Sarah stood frozen, staring at the screen. Outside, somewhere in Ashwood, a siren began to wail. And for the first time since this began, Sarah realized she wasn't chasing the fire anymore. The fire was coming for her. Sarah didn't remember driving home. The road unfolded in front of her like a half-forgotten dream, streetlights flickering, houses sleeping, everything painfully normal. Too normal. Detective Blake followed close behind. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. When they reached Sarah's street, the siren sound had vanished. Silemons pressed down hard, like the town itself was holding its breath. Her house stood exactly as she'd left it. Lights off. Door locked, no smoke. No signs of fire, Blake said quietly. That doesn't mean anything anymore, Sarah replied. She stepped out of the car. The air smelled faintly of ash. Inside, the house felt wrong. Not cold, not warm. Occupied. Sarah moved slowly, phone in one hand, service weapon in the other. The living room was untouched. Family photos on the wall. A mug still on the table from earlier that evening. Blake checked the kitchen. Nothing here. Sarah headed toward the hallway. That's when she heard it. A soft crackling sound, like paper burning. She followed it to the spare bedroom, her home office. The door was closed. It hadn't been closed when she left. Sarah reached for the handle. Her phone vibrated. Incoming call, 911. She answered without hesitation. Sarah, the voice said. Not distorted. Not echoing. Human. Her own voice. You always take the calls? It continued. Even when you shouldn't. Who is this? She demanded. The door creaked open by itself. Inside the room, the lights flickered. The walls were covered in photographs. Burned houses. Inspection reports. Faces of victims. Emily Harper. The family from Pine Ridge. Names Sarah had memorized without realizing it. You learn the truth, the voice said. Now you have to choose. Blake stepped in behind her. Sarah, look at the floor. She looked down. A circle drawn in ash. Perfectly shaped. In the center, a small recorder played on loop. Emily's voice. Help me, please. Sarah felt her chest tighten. This isn't justice. This is obsession. The voice laughed softly. Justice is just another word people use when they're afraid of consequences. Where are you? Sarah shouted. Closer than you think. The phone went silent. Then the smoke detectors went off. All at once. Blake grabbed her arm. We need to get out. Now. The room temperature surged. Heat crawled up the walls not from flames, but from memory. Images flashed in Sarah's mind. Fire marshals signing off faulty heaters. Locked exits. Reports rewritten. And at the center of it all, a man standing calmly, watching buildings burn, believing he was necessary. This town runs on sacrifice, the voice echoed through the room. And tonight, it asked for yours. The ash circle ignited, not with fire, but with light. Blake shoved Sarah backward as the windows shattered outward. The house alarm screamed. Neighbors' lights flicked on. And just as suddenly, everything stopped. No fire, no smoke. Only the recorder, still playing Emily's last words. Police sirens approached from a distance. Sarah collapsed to her knees. They want me to become part of it, she whispered, to carry it forward. Blake knelt beside her. You won't. But they're not gone, she said. They're waiting. Later, as dawn broke, investigators searched the house. They found no accelerants, no intruder, no fingerprints, only one new item on Sarah's desk. A neatly folded document, an inspection approval form, unsigned. At the bottom, a handwritten note. Every system needs someone willing to look away. Sarah stared at it as the sun rose over Ashwood. She knew the truth now. The calls weren't just about the past. They were a test. And the town wasn't finished asking questions. Not yet. Not until someone finally refused to answer the call. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button. Share it, so others can experience this journey too. And yes, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because the next stories are going to be even more thrilling.